And we are live.
Oh, jolly good. Oh,
Hello.
Live. Hello.
Smile for the still for the week. Nicely done. Awesome. All right, kids.
You can Photoshop half a dozen of the gins out, if you please.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Matthew Polly is here. Fantastic.
Oh, good.
And I see he's wants to be in the video. So when that is time to add you, we are good to go with the tech with Matthew. I'm so excited.
Jolly good. So
Mark Lindsay's watching. Mark Lindsay does not get fined for being late this week.
No, Mark Lindsay, you can go to the top of the class and give the pens out.
And
Very pleased with
Rick
you.
Wetzel, Joanne Grubbs.
Great. Before we start, I'd like to say happy birthday to David Skinner, our winemaker extraordinaire in Texas. And also to Barry Murphy, our filmmaker friend from Playa del Rey.
Our editor friend.
Who is...
our winemaker friend who supplies us with this.
Stuff.
Yay.
It's awful stuff we have to drink all the time. But
we'll talk about that later.
Brave little sodas, David, we drink it. Drink on. And yes, Barry Murphy, who is a filmmaker extraordinaire, has got his own project going and is now back in the game for,
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, that's right.
Shark Tank.
Thank goodness, a paying job, Barry.
We should get you on there with your teas. You'd scare the crap out of them. Oh, I said crap.
Oh, okay, fine. One on the crapometer. Okay. I have to tell you this. I saw it this morning, late breaking news. I thought it was lovely. Some elderly gentleman broke out of an old people's home in Germany. And when the night security discovered about 3 a.m. that they weren't in their beds, they went into the town and realized there was a rock concert on. So they checked that out, and yes, sure enough, there they were, rocking on at 3 a.m.
Fantastic.
So, and isn't that lovely? They brought them home and put them to bed, probably with, bread and milk and stuff. But don't some movies just write themselves? I can see Michael Caine in that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, our guest this week is Matthew Polly, who I believe is standing by. Good boy. Very pleased with you. Thank you for doing all the tests and so on. You must be such a busy person with this new book, Bruce Lee, A Story.
A Life.
So, Bruce Lee, A Life, of course. Yeah. You know what I'm like.
We've got the Kindle version. We don't have our hard copy. Hasn't arrived yet, but I've been trying to wrestle Angie's iPad away from her.
No chance. But no, in the meantime, you can get it on Amazon, folks, and it's a really good read, lots of information. So, but Matthew will tell you about that himself in a little bit when he joins us. So I see it's not just us in the United States that are absolutely boiling, like places like...
well, somebody's watching from hot Leicestershire.
Oh, hot Leicester. Oh, they're all hot in Leicestershire.
Ooh,
not just hot in Cleveland,
It's Ace at Bailey's.
Yeah, it's Ace at Bailey's, yeah. But places like Portugal and Spain announcing that they've had the hottest temperature ever on record. But of course there's no global warming, but I'm not going to go there, am I?
And Oban, Scotland is on. What's the weather like up there?
What's the weather like today, Jim?
Exactly.
Okay, so even England, where they only get normally 3 days of sunshine a year, they're all absolutely baking, but who knows? But I think the fires in California have been dreadful too.
Oh, no.
The firefighters and the first responders are just wonderful, wonderful people.
14,000 battling California
I know.
right now.
Yep, I know.
Say a prayer for those kids. And the heat and the hot, and the heavy gear they have to wear.
I can never understand why people like them and the police put their lives on the line every day for people who are often so ungrateful. So give them a thought and a prayer.
Yeah.
Please do. Oh, I read that a small town called Blandford in Massachusetts had their entire police force resign.
What?
They had their annual meeting or quarterly meeting or whatever, town hall meeting, and they were all complaining about lousy conditions, cars that weren't properly maintained, dangerous situations, lousy wages. So they all wrote their letters of resignation. Can you imagine the hoolies in that town going, woohoo, we can go out and drink and drive and rob banks and do all sorts of stuff, and there's nobody to collar us, turn us in.
How many people were in the police department, do you know?
4.
Oh, 4. Oh, well, so it's not...
a town this big.
It's not exactly a metropolis, is it?
No, I won't even try to say that, because I've had my breakfast of cornflakes and gin this morning.
Yes,
so.
indeed.
No, I haven't. I'm just lying, really. You know what I'm like.
Yeah.
But, that's got to end badly, hasn't it?
Yeah, welcome, Jeff.
They can't even have any car chases anymore. But speaking of the cops, have you seen these lovely lip syncing things they're all doing? There are some fabulous. Go to YouTube and have a look. And a lot of the cops have decided to just lip sync to popular songs and do little movements, and it's great community, building.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Have you seen the one the CHP have done?
Yes, they've got Eric Estrada, from Chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, in it as well. Oh, it's lovely.
And he straightens what looks like a hairpiece, which is actually his hair.
Yeah, to get your hair on straight. Yeah, do go and look them up on YouTube. They're lovely. Oh, by the way, now in the way of confusing and fake news and God knows what, we were informed on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, that Lance Bass from NSYNC had bought the Brady Bunch house in Hollywood. And he even had photographs taken outside with his partner and various other people. And then he found out about 48 hours later that, he'd been misinformed.
He hadn't won the auction?
He hadn't won the auction. Oh. I know, and he'd put it out everywhere. He was so thrilled and done a lot of PR about it.
I bet.
And I thought it would be really great for tourism for the area. He's such a nice young man.
He's lovely.
And he lives in that area too. And then now today I've had two lots of confusing news. One's that HBO's bought it, and another that HGTV has bought it and is going to film it and refurbish it. So who knows?
They probably, if it's HGTV, they're probably going to do infomercials from inside.
Possibly, I don't know, but you just showed you how I know. But I gave up in the end. I gave up this morning. I was trying to deal with it. Oh, by the way, Sacha Baron Cohen is on the road again.
Boy.
Oh boy, have you seen any of his shows?
It's on Showtime.
Showtime, yes.
Who is America?
Who is America, exactly.
It's shocking.
He has taken in people like Dick Cheney,
Ted Koppel.
Ted Koppel, oh that's right, I've forgotten.
So for those of you who don't know, he poses in heavy makeup and disguised accents as 4 different characters, just a bit like he did with Ali G.
Yeah.
And he goes out and he interviews people like Dick Cheney and...
what about Sheriff Joe Arpaio?
Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Roy Moore from Alabama.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's called Who is America? You can Google it.
When I first saw it, I thought, nah, I don't like this. But Martin said, give it another try. It is so shocking. It's worth watching.
Yep.
So I did. I was shocked, and I am watching. But
and now you're part of the Mossad?
Probably.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm probably flagged everywhere. Even my Ralph's card and my AARP card is probably under surveillance now. But I tell you what else, too. The late Steve McQueen's children are suing Ferrari, is it? Yeah.
Ferrari, yeah.
They put out a new model, a car called the McQueen, and without securing the family trademark rights, they evidently met with them some time ago. Oh, here comes Butch, our little star cat. Always wants to get in on the act every Tuesday. Come along, Butch. To camera. No, he's not made up. He's not ready.
Martin.
Oh, yes.
Come and have Butch say a quick hello to the people.
Say hello to our little baby Butch. Hello, darling.
There he is.
Hello, darling.
Butch, star appearance.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. He's got to go and rest in his trailer now.
He hasn't got his union card,
no,
so we shouldn't have done that.
No. Oh, dear, we'll have trouble at Mill over that.
Oh, we will.
But listen, I'm waffling on, and I think it's time.
Yes, let's get Matthew Polly on.
Lovely Matthew on.
To talk about Bruce Lee. I know Rick Wetzel is watching, and he'll probably have some questions. Yes. So let me add Matthew. It says we are adding.
Hello,
so
Matthew.
Everybody breathe in, fingers crossed, lean forward, praying for the technology. That is, what a gorgeous cat. Indeed he is.
It's the book that Matthew has written.
Yeah.
This
I know,
is a piece
Bruce
of
Lee
paper,
alive.
But you can get it on Kindle, which I have done because the post office have miraculously lost mine and it's going to be redelivered or something.
We're still adding Matthew. It says adding. Sometimes it says connecting. It's going, and there he is now.
Hello, Matthew. Hi, finally.
There, hi. How are you, Angie?
JB, thank you so much, and also thank you to Marshall Terrell for setting this up. But
very kind of him.
Yes, there'll be a bag of tea in your future, but maybe even a bottle of wine. Who knows? So. I'd like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay, so my first thought is, it took you about 10 years to study and research and write this book about the life of Bruce Lee. What makes someone like you want to undertake such an endeavor, huge endeavor?
Well, Bruce Lee was my childhood hero. I first saw Enter the Dragon when I was this skinny, bully 12-year-old. And I wanted to be as tough as Bruce Lee. So he inspired me to take up the martial arts. I ended up going to China for 2 years and studying at the Shaolin Temple.
Really?
And then I started writing about the martial arts. And one day someone suggested you should do a book about Bruce Lee. And I thought, that's a terrible idea. I'm sure there's a lot of good ones. But it turns out there weren't any really good biographies.
Well,
and I thought that was a shame.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I
second,
thought this was my way of paying him back.
we're getting Roberto Santana says it's the best Bruce Lee biography ever, and Maurice Bastarache says you are one of his favorite authors.
Oh, jolly good. That's
Oh,
great. So now, Matthew, how come, in your opinion, there's never been a major comprehensive book about him before now?
I think it's two things. One, Kung Fu is not considered highbrow.
Yeah.
I often joke if Bruce Lee was a painter, there would be 10 good biographies. And then the other reason is I think Asian Americans are often ignored in Western culture. And so if you try to think of a major Asian American star, it's hard to come up with one besides Bruce Lee.
I see.
And so,
I see your point, yeah. But he didn't just study the martial arts, did he? I mean, he lived and obsessed it. Wasn't that part of his legacy, do we think? Or, he was devoted to it, wasn't he, like no other?
yes, no, Bruce Lee was probably the world's greatest martial artist. He was a genius, and he was completely obsessed. You would have to say it was his religion, and he was a faithful disciple of it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So now, when did Bruce Lee come to the United States, and what was, the infiltration of Hollywood? How did that all happen?
Well, he was actually sent to the United States because he got into so much trouble in Hong Kong. He picked so many fights, the police went to his mother and said, if he doesn't shape up, we're going to throw him in jail. Oh. And so his mother said, maybe you should go to America and straighten up. So he came to America, and he decided he was going to be a Kung Fu instructor because there were so few jobs for Asians in Hollywood. But he gave a performance that a Hollywood producer noticed, and that's how he ended up as Kato on the Green Hornet.
Oh, that's right. You just never know, do you?
No.
Well, what is it they say is luck? Success is when preparedness meets opportunity.
That's exactly.
I was reading that he not only taught a lot of famous people like Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Sterling Silliphant, Roman Polanski, Jay Sebring, I should say. But it appears he sort of took advantage of those connections. Was he an opportunist, do you think?
Well, Bruce Lee, after the Green Hornet was canceled, had a wife and a kid and a mortgage he couldn't afford. So the way he got by was teaching celebrities for like $850 an hour Kung Fu.
Not bad, yeah, in those days.
And so he also hoped, though, of course, through those relationships to advance his career. So as one can say, no one gets to the top of the industry without being a bit of an opportunist.
That's right. Yes.
Roberta's asking, is Bruce's mother still alive? Do we know?
No, she passed away.
Oh,
Grace Ho.
And Mark O'Hara wants to know what you think of Tom Bleeker's book, Unsettled Matters.
Tom Bleeker. Yeah. Tom Bleeker is Linda's ex-husband. So.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Got it.
So now, what was his connection to the Manson murders? Was there a connection? And what can you tell us about what happened with Roman Polanski?
That's right. So he was best friends with Jay Sebring and Sharon Tate, and he worked on a movie together. And Roman Polanski was one of his Kung Fu students. And so Roman found, the police found at the scene of the murder a pair of horn-rimmed glasses that they thought was one of the killers. And Roman Polanski was convinced that if he could find the person who owned those glasses, he would find the killer. Oh. And one day Bruce said to Roman, I lost my glasses. And so for a brief moment, Roman Polanski thought it might be Bruce Lee. Oh. But then, of course, it turned out it wasn't.
Oh, my gosh.
Goodness, what a story. Now, to all intents and purposes, he was considered a sort of washed-up American in the cinema world, wasn't he? I think he had to go to Asia to make it big. Do you think fate was at play in that setup?
Well, what you find is any sort of moment in someone's life could have caused a totally different direction. True. For example, he was up for the part of Hawaii Five-0, which was the first show that had a bunch of Asian actors in it. And if he'd gotten that, he would have had a totally different career. But as fate would have it, he ended up in Hong Kong and made those 4 kung fu movies that made him the icon he is today.
Now, by the time he finally made it big in America with what, Enter the Dragon was the one, I think?
Yes.
He passed away. What a tragedy that was, huh?
Yeah, very sad. He died a month before the release of Enter the Dragon, the movie that would make him a huge star. I mean, he would often say in Hong Kong, "I'm bigger than the Beatles," but he was unknown. But he was unknown in the West until that movie came out.
Really? Yes.
Oh, I mean, even I remember Enter the Dragon, though I wasn't a big kung fu fan. It was just a huge part of the pop culture. You couldn't miss it, right?
Yeah, that's right. So can you tell us anything about the circumstances of his death as you know them, and why the truth was covered up for so long?
Yes, so he died in the apartment of his mistress, Betty Ting Pei. And his boss, Raymond Chow, was afraid the scandal would consume his reputation and ruin the release of Enter the Dragon. Oh. So Raymond Chow told the press that he had collapsed at home with his wife. And when the press found out this was untrue, it launched 1,000 conspiracy theories that he'd been killed or murdered, or the ninjas got him. And so, as with anybody famous who dies young, there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and it was caused by the cover-up.
Wow, I didn't realize there was a cover-up.
I didn't until I started reading the book. But what would you say is his most enduring legacy, and why does he continue to live on in popular culture as much as he does?
Well, first, he's the first Asian American male star to ever star in a Hollywood movie. Yeah. So he's the Jackie Robinson of Asian actors. Yes. And then secondly, he introduced more Westerners to Asian culture than any other person to ever live. And so he's a missionary figure as well as a celebrity.
I see.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So yeah, without Bruce Lee, you know, there wouldn't be a Jackie Chan, there wouldn't be a Tom Tran of GIs of comedy.
That's right.
It's it's a tough one. So you have to look up gisofcomedy.com. That's headed by a Vietnamese American guy, former GI, Staff Sergeant Tom Tran, and he talks a lot about how Bruce Lee really opened the door for him as an American kid, you know.
Yes. I'm holding up a copy of the cover of the book so that people can see it.
Yep.
And now please tell us how everybody can keep in touch with you.
I have a few more questions too.
Okay.
So Ramon Youssef says he had the pleasure to meet and interview Matthew last month in Cardiff. Okay. Since you last talked with Ramon, it's been announced that Warner Brothers are considering an Enter the Dragon remake. How much do you think that could help or hurt Bruce's legacy? What are your thoughts on a remake?
It makes me uncomfortable that they're going to remake the movie because that's my favorite movie ever. But it will bring more attention to Bruce Lee. So it's like all things, a mixed bag, and I guess it depends on how well they do it.
Exactly.
Donna wants to know, does your book discuss Brandon Lee at all, Bruce's son?
Yeah, in the afterword of the book, the epilogue, I discussed what happened after Bruce Lee died, how he became so famous, and then, of course, what happened with his family, that his daughter Shannon took over the estate, and then, of course, the tragic death of Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow.
Right. And Roberta wants to know if you've seen the TV program, The Autopsy, about Bruce's death, and what do you think of the conclusion that the doctors came to?
Great question. I have seen it. I think the theory that they come to, that it was an adrenal crisis, is flawed, because adrenal crisis doesn't cause cerebral edema, and that's how we know Bruce Lee died.
Oh, wow. And Donna is also asking, have you watched the Green Hornet series, and what do you think of that?
The TV series?
Yeah.
That Bruce Lee was in? Yes, I watched every episode. It was pretty painful by the end. It was, it was 1960s TV.
Yes.
And my cousin Tim Kendall from Laguna is saying there are now, of course, many, many forms of Kung Fu. Do you talk about the different forms or in the book?
Yeah, we definitely get into the different forms. There are hundreds of them. Bruce studied Wing Chun, which became very popular after Bruce died. And
named the 80s pop band Everybody Wang Chun Tonight.
That's right.
There's a little bit of music trivia for you.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that's fantastic. So yes, please do tell people where the preferred method of getting the book is for you as the author, what benefits you guys and Simon & Schuster most?
Well, anyone interested in contacting me can go to www.mattpolly.com, MattPolly.com. You can reach me on Twitter at Matthew E. Polly. And of course, the book's available everywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or your local independent bookstore, which we should all support while they're still here.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to Marshall Terrell, who is actually asking, what's next on your agenda? What's the next book you're considering?
Tell Marshall I need him to tell me what I should write next.
Okay.
He's my mentor.
Marshall, contact Matthew and deal with it, will you? There's a good book.
Maybe we should do a Hong Kong high tea recipe kung fu book together.
Perfect.
God, what an opportunity. She never gives up.
Well, I don't know if you've watched any of these, but traditionally Mother and I entertain our guests with a couple of really bad limericks at the end of every show. So I'm going to slide in there. Thank you once again. Martin is directing now, taking over.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
And I'm going to scroll all. I am just going to scroll all the way
I
down.
think I am, yes.
I think you are. Giz the mouse, Mrs.
Dear, oh dear.
Bossy Boots is here now.
Yes, okay, fine. Okay, yes, right.
Okay.
So, a couple of very high-class limericks coming up now.
Written by Her Majesty. She's bringing these throughout her new book. So, 1, 2, 3. On leisurely spring afternoons, my late Uncle Fred played the spoons. He'd delight all us kids, even playing pan lids, as he'd capture the popular tunes. You see.
Classy, stay classy.
And speaking of beverages, I'm going to inch forward and get mine to cheers.
I'll
Cheers
finish
the
off my
broadcast.
breakfast.
Yes.
Cheers,
This is,
Matthew. Thank you again.
Mrs. McCartney's blackberry sangria, just for the record. So we're going to finish off, speaking of booze, and 1, 2, 3. Just give me a toothful of gin. I'll create you a yarn with a grin. But a cupful of whiskey might make her so frisky that you might have me wanting to sin. Cheers.
Bye.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Be nice to each other. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye,
Matthew.
guys.
Bye.
Cheers.